I'd like to begin and open the forum by welcoming on stage Nina Gardner, founder and director of Strategy International, and the panelists of our very first session, Time to Listen to Our Future. Nina. Lovely.
Time to listen to the future. I'm so glad that there are a lot of people in the audience and awake listening to the future, because this is the future. And where are the rising talents? I want to hear from them too. Where is the future? All right. So my name is Nina Gardner, and I've been here this is my 15th Women's Forum. This is sort of a homecoming for me. I'm very happy. I work at, I'm the director of Strategy International, and I do advising on a number of ESG and investor matters, but I also teach at Business and Human Rights at Johns Hopkins, and I am so happy because I listen to the future in my teaching life every day, and so you are the future. So we have on the panel Marie Dauvergne from BNP Paribas, who's doing solidarity investments as asset manager, so this is very interesting. And of course we have our influencer, Louise Aubery, and she will tell you what she is doing, which is very interesting on directly on women's issues. And our Goodwill Ambassador from UNHCR, Ghazal, who is studying aviation, is going to be our first pilot from a refugee pilot from Syria. So we have a strict schedule here. 3 minutes from each of you. Marie, you're first. And please come to the podium.
Well, hello everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm very grateful to be here today, and it's a real privilege for me to be part of the next generation voices alongside such inspiring women. Like Louise and Maya, and like all of you, I guess, I know that there is no more time to waste and that we need to use every second that we have to change the world. But how can we do that, as we are so busy in our everyday lives? The answer, in my view, lies in our jobs. We spend most of our time working, and this is where we can have the strongest impact. We can all find a job that changes how we do things, that contributes to less inequality, or that reduces our gas emissions. NGOs and social businesses, which represent already 10% of the French GDP, but also governments and institutions, need newcomers to join forces in order to tackle all the issues that we face today. I know what you think. Why is an analyst from BNP Paribas telling us this on stage? You're right. I'm not an entrepreneur nor a hero, but I'm here and happy to be here because I'm convinced that what I do in my everyday life helps change the world. So what do? I help people like you and me find investments for their savings, in investment according to their social and environmental convictions. Every day, I meet with entrepreneurs from every part of France who are shaping the new economy by, for example, redistributing unsold food from supermarket to food associations, by creating co-location for elderly people, or even by training refugees to help them find a job. I really like meeting them, but also meet with the beneficiaries, as I can clearly see the impact that they can have on their daily lives. For the last 6 years, we've been supporting more than 130 social businesses in France. And as you can see, we are really motivated to take capital from where it is and move it towards social and environmental innovations. Despite its bad image in the press, finance is really a strong tool to help the economy change. For 15 years, for instance, solidarity finance has grown by 20% each year, which illustrates the impact that finance can have on the world. Finance and solidarity finance are really part of the solution. So I leave you with two messages because I know I only have 3 minutes. The first one is we can all be part of the change. We can do this according to abilities. There is no need to have exceptional talents, so just go for it. The second one is finance is one of the solutions to make the world change. So today, remember that the savings can have a positive impact on the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. That's a very strong message. And we'll have a chance to follow up later. So, Louise.
Il n'y a encore pas si longtemps,
A short while ago, not so long ago, I was at school. We learned the writings of a great French authors, Balzac, for example. Strangely, they never made me study the physiology of a marriage. It's an essay that was published in 1829 in which he declared, "Do not worry of these worries, of these cries, of these pains. Nature has made it for our use and to carry everything, children, pain, blows, and masculine pain. In all the code of civilization, man has written laws that regulate the destiny of women under this bloody epigraph, Vae victis, woe to the weak." We could think that this essentialist vision of a feminine condition is obsolete, but it is, unfortunately, very current. To illustrate it, just take the examples that were shared by Balzac himself. He says, nature made it to our image to carry everything, children is one of the things he names. Is that not the argument that is used by the reactionaries that we see worldwide to go back on one of our basic rights, the right to use our body as we wish? In more than 20 countries worldwide, abortion is still forbidden, and these restrictions are just getting worse. An example of Poland, of the US, who have recently taken a very dangerous backward step. It is dangerous, yes, because every single year, more than 25 million abortions are carried out in risky conditions, which means that it is the third cause of maternal mortality worldwide. Every year, 1 out of 4 pregnancies ends in an abortion. Restricting or banning abortion does not bring an end to the need to abort. It just puts the life of the people concerned in danger. Then Balzac says, nature has made us to withstand blows. Is that why in France, 121 women have already died this year because they were beaten by their spouse or partner? Is that the reason for which 1 in 3 women has already been a victim of physical or sexual violence, or 15 million minors who have been forced to carry out sexual intercourse? It seems that Balzac's point of view is shared by his contemporaries because, in fact, there are few sentences against the rapist or the wife beater. In France, only 18% of all complaints for violence lead to an investigation. In Russia, a woman will be told that if a woman has to continue beating her for her to be able to complain, but it is not. Carrying the pains and woes of man that is not a duty. It is in the very nature of women to take care of men. This is an important philosophical concept and political concept even. The concept of care. Women are those who carry out most domestic work, most unpaid work, most work of care. The question we have now is the following. Are women better at sweeping floors, or is there just a gendered hierarchy in a world of work? Women are they naturally more talented for smiling, reassuring their husband? Have we indicated this? Should we not, therefore, teach our boys empathy, respect, and benevolence? Could we not make them understand that the empowerment of women is not a threat? It's a chance for a more diverse, more complementary society. In all the codes of so-called civilized nations man has written the rules that regulate the destiny of women, says Balzac. I think we need to modify this. In all the codes of civilized nations, man has understood that women had to write the rules that regulate their destiny. He was almost there. We just needed to change a few words. Thank you very much.
We do have to educate our sons to really respect women and respect strong women. So all this is a very important message. Maya, last but not least at all.
Thank you to the Women's Forum for having me, and thank you for your introduction. I'm so pleased to be here today. Hello, everyone. I am Maya. I'm 23 years old, and I was forced to flee the conflict in Syria around 6 years ago. My mother, 2 younger brothers, and I were granted family reunion visas in the UK to join my father, who had no option but to take an irregular, more dangerous route to safety. From the moment I landed in the UK, my life changed completely. I had to learn an entirely new language by reading dictionary and teaching myself, integrate into a strange community, and enter a different educational system, and I had no help to guide me along the way. Initially, I was rejected from 3 schools and was out of education for several months, which was devastating. Most of the challenges I faced were because I was a refugee. Even though I was only 16, I was labeled and stereotyped, and people thought my skills and abilities were limited. I wanted to study political science, but I was told English was not good enough. I did not know what to do, but there was one day when I was staying in a hotel by Heathrow Airport, and I was fascinated by the sight of airplanes taking off and landing. I thought, this is what I want to be, a pilot. I'm delighted to say that a couple of years ago, I became the first ever female Syrian refugee pilot. Thank you. I'm also thrilled to say that I recently graduated university, and I'm now in full-time employment as a research engineer at the UK's Manufacturing Technology Centre. And I'm slowly building, thank you. And I'm slowly building my flying hours as I inch closer to my dream of becoming a commercial pilot. Getting to this point has been a struggle, but I also know that I am one of the lucky ones. Globally, about 1/3 of young people go to university or college, but for refugees of the same age, that figure is 5%, only 5%. So how are so many millions of my peers and the next generation of refugees going to be able to define their future, gain confidence, flourish, give back to wider society, and rebuild their countries if education and work opportunities aren't accessible to them? If we continue to neglect refugee education, especially for girls, it's evident that the consequences will be felt for generations, not just for refugees, but for everyone. Without ensuring access to an inclusive education, the international community will fail to meet several of the Sustainable Development Goals, not just goal number 4, which is in summary providing quality education for all, but also commitment to eradicating poverty, promoting decent work, and reducing inequality. Higher level education turns students into leaders. It harnesses the creativity, energy, and idealism of refugees, youth, and youth adults. Along with my studies, I'm also honored to be a Goodwill Ambassador for UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, using my voice on global platform to advocate for the rights of refugees and showing through my own story the power of education and how it can transform lives. Investing in refugees' education is a collective endeavor with collective rewards, requiring the involvement of all levels of societies if we want to see real impact. We have to unite to improve the provision of education on all levels to ensure that refugees have the same access as young adults from their host communities. UNHCR has an ambitious target for the next decade to ensure refugees achieve parity with their non-refugee peers in pre-primary, primary, and secondary education, and to boost enrollment in higher education to get that 5% to 15%. It's a bold but absolutely achievable ambition if we all work together. You can play your part, and there is one concrete action you can take. Support UNHCR's Aiming Higher campaign to enable young refugee students to pursue higher education. As UNHCR's High Commissioner has said, Education is an investment in development, human rights, and peace. Now is the time to invest in human futures, in budding builders, creators, and peacemakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maya. Well, we've heard, and that was extremely emotional, and I really, I thank you for that message, because I think we have to thank UNHCR for having found this gem among all of you, but there are a lot of other Mayas out there, and we've got to invest in them, and that was a very important message. So we now have very few minutes to have a little bit of a conversation, and I wanted to ask Marie first, how did she get into this field of solidarity investment, because there's a difference between sustainable investment and solidarity investment. And so maybe you could share with the group, because some young people might be wanting to go into solidarity investment. So give us a short recap.
Well, I was studying management, like many French people who don't know what to do with their lives. And then I realized that I wanted to have a meaning in my everyday job. So I was considering doing sustainable development, entrepreneurship, or finance. And then I realized that with finance, you can have a real impact on strategies, and you can do sustainable development and help entrepreneurs. So I decided to go on solidarity investments because it goes for me further than sustainable investment itself. Because in solidarity investment, what we do is we invest in non-listed companies that really want to have an impact on the world and bring a solution to an environmental or social problem. And this fills me with a lot of meaning in my life.
Well, that's fantastic. And you started with an impact investment group in doing work in Africa, correct?
Yes, yes.
And did that sort of change your life and give it the sort of the direction that you're taking today?
Yes. Well, many of you know that the issues in Africa and Europe are quite different. I think we must address all of them. But yes, I started with the issues in Africa, now the issues in France. So many work to do.
Well, I hope you talk to the leading, we have these rising talents and other young people in this room. Please don't miss the opportunity to talk to Marie about sort of how she's, the direction of her life, because that could be of interest to all of you. Now, I move to our activist, Louise, who touched on so many issues of importance, of basic importance to women, because obviously none of us could even go to our jobs if we're battered at home or violated at home, and of course, if we can't decide what to do with our bodies, it is truly atrocious, and it sets women back years. Obviously, with my American accent, I'm from the United States, and we've been watching with horror the decision on the Supreme Court that is leaving the states to decide, and many of them are very regressive. So, Louise, what brought you to this understanding, really, that there is so much that women are being soumises, as we say, we're being submitted, and many women are not able to flourish in the way they could. Is there something that happened in your life that made you understand that this is sort of the battle for you in terms of your career now as an influencer?
Well, I think growing up as a girl, you clearly realize there is a difference in the way you are raised than it is for young boys. So I think that's the first thing that really really stood out for me, and I was angry about it. And I think anger can be a real trigger for change. So it was small things during my childhood, but the fact that I could not speak as loud, the fact that I could not dress the way I wanted, because my body was sexualized in a way, men's body was not. It was the fact that people would expect less from me just because I was a woman, and if I was going to be a woman who speaks loud and who wants to have who is ambitious, actually, it could be perceived as threatening. So really, the fact that women cannot lose. Whether they try to fit the diktats, or whether they try to be faithful to themselves, really, pissed me off. We can say that. So I really chose to
We're allowed
use social
to use
media.
This kind of language here. We're among friends, right?
Yeah. So I really chose to speak up about it on social media because I think it is not an issue that is spoken enough in education, whether it is in school or within families, depending on which education we have. So yeah, social media is a great tool of communication in that way.
Well, thank you. And for those of you who may not be aware, the OECD also made a very big report in 2016 saying truth hurts. It's about domestic violence. And I think the figures you quoted about one out of three women globally in all sectors of economic sectors and around the world have had some kind of domestic violence in their lives. It's very serious, and they came out with a report in 2020 called Truth Hurts. I think it's an important one for all of you to go and look at, and not something normal for the OECD to actually look into. So, and I think that was influenced by the partnership with the Women's Forum. Maya, we're talking about education and women and all the importance of investing in education, whether but particularly refugee women who have so much to overcome. So if you could tell us a little bit about what you see as, first of all, what is you gave us a very strong message. What do you concretely want everyone to go back to their offices and do in terms of really applying your message about investing in refugee women, putting money into education? What concretely do you want this audience to do? Because it is an extremely important point you made.
Thank you. Well, as we can see, it's basically a full house in today, filled with motivational women, inspiring women, and women support women. When one woman succeeds, we all succeed. True. What takes from us now, what I want all these wonderful women, and if there are any men as well, to take back, is to have a moment of reflection, to understand that currently we're looking at 100 million displaced people worldwide. Those are not just numbers, those are people with dreams and futures and ambition. They're human beings. So what it takes really is the private sector, NGOs, businesses, and governments. We need to all be together to make sure that we lift each other up. Thanks to BNP Paribas, they're already doing their part in funding the Aiming Higher campaign. And the importance of education as well. It's great, and it can be seen for a generation. I did see it firsthand when I visited recently the Jordan Azraq refugee camp, and I met with some of the Aiming Higher kind of scholars, and I could see the hope in their eyes, and I could speak to other children that they're looking forward to go back to school because they see that there is hope, that they can make something out of themselves, and it's not just a dead end. Being a refugee should not be the end statement of your life.
That's a very important remark. So yes, that should not define who you are, and of course, it's not only the education. Of course, it's providing jobs. So all of you who can hire refugees, I think this would be a plus in the resume as opposed to a minus. So I think that was a very important point. To go to Marie, a second on the BNP Paribas. So it's very unusual for a bank to be investing in refugees. So tell us a little bit more about that, because many people here are working for big companies and banks. Others of you are entrepreneurs, but all of you can find a way to hire or invest in these amazing men and women who are coming out of these war-torn countries, who need to be given hope and need to be brought into their society to then maybe rebuild their countries someday. But Marie, tell us a little bit about this unusual partnership.
Well, institutions may be big and sometimes slow to innovate, but they finance every part of the economy. And institutions like BNP Paribas knows that they can have a real impact on the world, so they can choose specific themes to be invested in. And we invest in different ways in helping refugees. The first way is through the foundation. BNP Paribas as a foundation, very involved in the refugee themes. And we also invest through a fund because you have a lot of social businesses targeting the training and the employment of refugees. So we can invest in these kind of startups to help them grow and have more and more impact. So this is really something that BNP Paribas wants to put forward because it's going to be a big theme to be addressed in the next few years to come.
And you're doing training as well.
Yes.
That's fantastic, because there are a lot of talents. All of you have superpowers and talents that you can help train refugees and share your know-how, so that would be very important. Louise, I wanted to follow up on a very important message on bringing up our sons and education of the boys in the room. And the men in the room, we're grateful you are here. I think we should have more men in the room, may I say. Because if they heard two days of the Women's Forum, and it's always a joy to hear the women's solidarity and what women have overcome to be here and what they're achieving, but it would be great to have them do 2 days a year, full-time Women's Forum, to just get the training. It would be, that might be a thought. But Louise, we could start with training from you. But what do you? I'm bringing up a son. I'm hoping very empathetic and not worried about strong women. He's got one in the family. But Louise, that was a very important message you did. What do you suggest that people take away in terms of investing and training? Well, training men might be hard, but just trying to raise them. But then, how do you give them a course correction if they need it mid-career?
The answer is not simple. I wish it was. I wrote a book on the deconstruction. I'm never sure if this word is used in English, but it is in French, to deconstruct femininity, because that's what I know and that's my reality. And I chose not to speak about masculinity, just because you could do a whole different book on that. But I really encourage, to me, the answer really lies in the deconstruction of masculinity, because violence is deeply tied to masculinity, domination, so many traits that we encourage men directly or indirectly to have, that I think are detrimental to the society. So I think, it takes some guts to maybe just question the way we behave, the way we think, the way we interact with women. And I really encourage men and women in the room to read different books on the subject. There is one that I love, Le mythe de la virilité, d'Olivia Ghazal, which is an amazing philosopher, and she tackles this topic brilliantly. So to me, it's really the deconstruction of masculinity that would help us live in a more balanced and peaceful society.
And you brought up peace, which is also one of the main themes of our conference: peace, health, and climate change. So we are all here to talk about that during the session. We have 2 minutes, so I'm going to start a lightning round with my key takeaways, 30 seconds or 40 seconds each.
Right. Hello? Yeah, okay, great. I don't perform well under stress, but that's all right. I feel like we've all heard amazing stories today, and we've heard the power of making change, and we also heard the power of our individuality in creating this change. Me liking aviation, liking to become a pilot, is not a key theme for our refugees, and that's the thing that I wanted to bring out, is that each single person is unique. And to bring out the uniqueness of refugees is very important to help society and the community get back together. Each one of us has the power to change people around us and to change the world. So let it start with you today. Go back, maybe look at UNHCR's website and decide how is it that you're going to change someone's life today. Maybe by providing scholarship for higher education. That's it. Thank you.
Bravo. So when you think of refugee camps, think there are diamonds like Maya throughout the world that UNHCR is trying to educate, trying to save, and trying to repatriate into other countries to make their new lives. It's a very important message. Louise, 40 secondes. Yeah. What's their take-home plea, the recommendation?
Well, you have a book to read or two, but I think my main takeaway would be: do not hesitate to call out behaviors in the workplace, because that's something we don't do enough. Because as women, maybe we think it's not, our role. Maybe men, even men, do not feel legitimate to do it. But I think, bad stuff happen in the workplace just because people, didn't stand out. So yeah, be brave.
Be brave. That's an important takeaway too. Last but not least, Marie, 30 secondes.
Very quick. Well, maybe be the change you want to see. Invest yourself in your jobs, in your community, in your free time. Every action counts, so don't hesitate to go for it now.
Absolutely important message. Well, we'll thank you all. I thank the Women's Forum for inviting us here, and I hope you spend time and talk to these wonderful women. Thank you very much. I think we're done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to Nina and her incredible panelists. Such an inspiring panel. Thank you. Wonderful.
Good job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.